So my first question is, what is your definition of leadership?
Well, I guess I would say leadership involves helping a group establish a vision, creating an environment that allows them to pursue that vision, and then maintaining the processes and the resources that will ensure that that can happen. See, we have just
Just a whole bunch of electronic issues.
mechanical issues. You need to plug that in?
No, it's good.
Okay.
All right, works for me. Number 2, can you name a few leaders that influenced you personally?
Yeah, all the people that I've worked for and a lot of the people that I've worked with have really taught me about leadership, and especially the people that I've worked for, not only in coaching but administratively. I've had some really good, smart, effective presidents that I've worked for, who've gone at things differently than me because they've kind of grown up differently, approached some things a little more thoughtfully and a little less just direct, especially when it comes to managing people, because the biggest challenge for anybody in any leadership position is how to manage people well, and that's as different as the people you lead. So there's just a lot of different ways you got to go about that. There's a tendency in coaching for you to settle in on a style that's comfortable for you and just do it and just apply it kind of across the board, which is not particularly effective when you're dealing with lots of different kinds of folks. Dr. Mosley has been huge, and that seems odd because he's a religion professor turned college president, but he's really a smart guy when it comes to human nature and how to help people succeed. And actually, each of the presidents before him have been really helpful in giving me ideas about how to do this well. Coaches are really good at providing feedback to me that helps me figure out how to help them best too. And they're a different bunch. You know, they're not all kind of, I mean, there are some common characteristics, but if you listen as well as talk, then they'll tell you some things that they need from a day-to-day leadership standpoint. You just got to be paying attention.
All right. What are a few characteristics you feel all leaders need to have?
Well, I think the one that trumps everything is honesty, which is a deal maker or a deal killer, because at the point at which anybody figures out that you're not honest, partially honest, sometimes honest, then the whole foundation of the leadership followership thing just unravels. And I think the best way you can do that is to be as upfront with people as possible on the front end about what expectations are, and then as consistent as you can be on the follow-up with that. As transparent as you can be so that there aren't a lot of decisions made behind closed doors and on the fly, because ultimately people will follow somebody they trust, and people won't follow somebody that they don't trust. So one of the coaches came in the other day and told me that he wanted my opinion about this because I know you'll be direct and you won't give me any bullshit because you don't have time. So
Exactly.
there's something to be said for that, I guess.
Yep.
You got to dress it up once in a while, though. You can take that too far.
Do you feel that
And
anyone?
that's I think a big deal with the coaching end of things too.
Just knowing what to say.
Well, just being honest. Sometimes players really don't want you to be honest, and they've played for guys who haven't been honest, and that's kind of their framework. And they don't always, they say they want an answer, but then when they get the answer, they didn't really want that answer. But that's part of the next stage in this process of learning to trust someone, that you're going to get the unvarnished truth as opposed to somebody patting you on the head trying to make you feel good.
Do you feel that anyone can be a leader, or do you think that there's certain characteristics that people are born with that makes them eligible to become a leader?
I think anybody can be a leader because I've seen so many different personality types succeed at it. There's some head starts, but I don't think they're like lock head starts. Like if you're naturally outgoing, everybody thinks, well, there's a leader. But if you're outgoing and dishonest, you're not going to be an effective leader. There are people who are really quiet, who are kind of behind the scenes, consensus builders that don't really stand out in the crowd. But if they get things done that way, then, it's all about effectiveness. And everybody kind of takes a different path to this. And there are probably some people who are just personally ill at ease with the whole concept. There are people who are meant to follow, but in certain circumstances could probably lead others. You got to have followers who are receptive to the way that you want to lead. So it kind of depends on the situation. There are teams that respond well to real aggressive leadership, and there are other teams that respond well to more passive leadership, and that has to do with the personalities among that team. So that's why I think there's no real right or wrong answer. Some people are more innate leaders, but I think you can learn a lot of leadership skill. Otherwise, even the people who are innate leaders wouldn't ever get better at it.
What motivates you as a leader?
I do think there's something that runs through my personality that likes being in charge, that likes making decisions. But I also think just the whole concept that you're making a difference, that that what you do matters. I have a theory that I'm never sick because my mind has told my body that I just don't have the time to be sick. I'm serious. I just don't ever miss work. And I think it's because, even though it's not true, if I fell over dead tomorrow, it would take them about an hour to clean up my office and somebody else would be here and everything would go along fine. But I just think there's a sense of, for things to go well, I have to show up and I've got to be good. And that's just kind of, I think, how you're wired.
I think that might be word for word what my dad said. That he can't be sick because he doesn't have time to be sick.
But I'm convinced, it's one thing to say that and still be sick. It's another thing to never be sick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm particularly healthy. I rarely sleep. I don't follow any of
But you don't get sick. So.
Yeah, but I still don't get sick. And I've always thought it's because there's some mind-body connection that your mind tells your body, dude, you got to get up.
You can't just lay down.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there can be more than one leader in any one setting at the same time? Why or why not?
This is a classic example because I'm leading leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 21 sports. So you've got about 15, 16 head coaches, and I've got to lead them. Just like I've got to lead a team that has its own leaders. What's got to happen is that you got to make sure that everybody's leading in the same direction. I did some consulting work with the local high school, and they had really good coaches in all kinds of sports, but everybody got to develop their own philosophy and their own mission and their own protocols. And so they didn't have any central leadership of, like, it was just a crapshoot if you went out there, whether you were going to end up, whether your kid was going to end up in a good program or a horrible program. So, which is like a team where you've got multiple agendas. Yours is to be an all-conference player, and that's all you care about. Somebody else's is just to get to play, and that's all he cares about. Somebody is winning, and that's all he cares about. I think the ultimate leader's got to bring all those other leaders by persuasion onto the same page. And you can't really beat them into that. You just have to convince them that this is the way we do things. What's important in my job here is that we don't ever hire a coach and say, why don't you come in here and do this your way? We always have a process that says, here's how we do things. Tell us how you fit into that. Because we've already got a way of doing things. And that kind of gives you some common ground so that everybody's pulling in the same direction. But that's partly what makes it really interesting to be able to lead other leaders.
So then do you feel like there needs to be one central leader kind of pushing them all in the same direction?
Yeah, but it's pushing not because
Dragging.
you're dictating to them, but because you've convinced them that this is the way to do things. And there's always got to be one boss. You know, I met with the new president a couple of weeks ago, and I told him, my job is to produce the program that you want. So you tell me what you want, that's what I serve up, because you're the boss.
Last question. Who do you feel are the top few leaders in your position right now? You can go as an athletic director or as a head coach.
Well, everybody points to Krzyzewski as kind of the pinnacle, but I think there's lots of good leaders. I'm really impressed with guys whose teams succeed and whose players obviously enjoy playing there, you know, and you could take that to an extreme on either end, like guys who succeed but players bolt, and guys who players love playing for who don't really succeed because the players love playing for them too much. So, you know, but there's a lot of guys in the middle of that, and I'm hesitant to hold out examples of infallibility, though, because then you have something like at North Carolina where you find out part of the reason this worked was because nobody took real classes for decades. So you just have to be careful with how you pick out who you pick out. So I kind of pick out bits and pieces of people.
Of each person.
Yeah. More than, oh my God, that's my role model. Yeah.